Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries.
There are survival scenarios so extreme that they break the social contract entirely. Situations where the basic laws of physics force ordinary people to commit unspeakable acts just to see the next morning. In the spring of 1841, the William Brown sailed out of Liverpool. It was a massive cargo vessel, carrying 17 crew members and 65 passengers, mostly poor Scottish and Irish immigrants hoping to start a new life in America. That journey ended on April 19th. At 10 o'clock at night, 250 miles off the coast of Newfoundland, the ship struck an iceberg. Water rushed into the hold, giving the crew just 90 minutes to evacuate before the vessel sank. This diagram illustrates a simple, fatal math problem. The William Brown carried 82 people, but the ship was equipped with only 2 small lifeboats. 31 passengers were left with nowhere to go. They went down with the ship. The survivors were split between the 2 small vessels. Captain George Harris, along with a select few, commandeered the nimble, sail-equipped jollyboat. The following morning, he sailed away toward Nova Scotia, leaving the rest of the survivors behind in the open ocean. Command of the secondary vessel fell to first mate Francis Rhodes, and Rhodes was immediately faced with a dire physics problem. Looking at this diagram of the longboat, you can see the trap. It's a 22-foot rowboat, but it's crammed with 32 passengers and 9 crew members. With 41 bodies on board, the weight pushes the wooden hull dangerously close to the freezing waterline. The math was absolute. The boat was simply too heavy. For anyone to stay afloat, someone else had to drown. By 10 p.m. the next night, a brutal storm hits the North Atlantic. Freezing rain lashes the passengers, high winds batter the wooden hull, and the overburdened longboat springs a leak. Passengers bail water furiously, using whatever containers they have. But Rhodes watches the water pool around their ankles. The ocean is pouring in faster than they can throw it out. Believing the boat is minutes away from foundering, Rhodes issues a grim, historic order to his crew. "Help me, God. Men, go to work." When the sailors hesitate, Rhodes repeats the command. Seaman Alexander Holmes steps forward. He grabs the nearest passengers and forces them over the gunwales into the pitch-black ocean. The crew targets the men. They cast 14 male passengers into the sea. One of them, Frank Askin, fights desperately against the sailors before he is finally overpowered and shoved into the freezing depths. Watching their brother drown, Askin's 2 sisters make a harrowing choice. They step over the edge, choosing the icy water over a boat commanded by killers. The purge continues at daybreak. The crew finds 2 more male passengers hiding in the bottom of the boat. They pull them up and throw them overboard as well. This visual tally breaks down who lived and who died. 16 passengers were sacrificed to the ocean, but every single crew member was kept safely on board. Shortly after the last men are thrown into the water, the storm breaks. A passing ship named the Crescent spots the longboat, pulling aboard a group of shivering, traumatized survivors who now carry the weight of a massacre. The traditional law of the sea requires the crew to protect passengers at all costs. Out on the ice, that code shattered. When physics dictated that not everyone could survive, the people with the power chose to save themselves. The survivors eventually reach Philadelphia, where the passengers file a formal complaint with the district attorney. By then, Alexander Holmes is the only crew member authorities can locate. He becomes the sole target of a legal manhunt. In April 1842, Holmes stands trial for manslaughter in United States versus Holmes. A jury sitting in a warm, dry courtroom is asked to judge decisions made in the freezing dark. The prosecution relies on positive law. They argue that a sailor's duty to his passengers is unyielding, stating, "To the last extremity, to death itself, must he protect the passenger." The defense invokes natural law. They argue that in a state of extreme necessity, civil laws cease to exist. Driven by the primal instinct of self-defense, a person has the right to preserve their own life, even at the expense of another. The jury reaches a compromised verdict. They find Holmes guilty of manslaughter, but recommend extreme leniency. He receives a sentence of just 6 months in prison and a $20 fine, and is later granted a presidential pardon. That night on the Atlantic established the foundation for what philosophers call lifeboat ethics. It's the same harsh logic used in modern medical triage, deciding who gets the ventilator when there aren't enough to go around. But debating whether Holmes was right or wrong is a trap. Arguing over which passengers to throw overboard distracts us from looking at the ship itself. The William Brown carried 82 people, but only provided lifeboats for half of them. Before we agonize over how to divide scarce resources, we have to ask why those in power engineered that scarcity in the first place.